Honey Collins here for Brutus Monroe. Today we're going to create this fall-inspired thank you card. We're going to go over the products really quickly and then we'll jump right into it. We're going to use our Velveteen Glaze in Peach Bellini and in Pumpkin Patch. We're going to try to create a gradient with our stencil. Our stencil is called Wood, and it's one of our new stencils here, and it has this beautiful wood grain throughout. We're going to use Spring Sayings. We're going to use one of the smaller rectangles here to cut one of our panels. I'm going to use Judy's Wreath and Charlotte's Wreath. We're going to use from Charlotte's Wreath the thank you and a few of the foliage and flowers. Now this thank you has a shadow die. We won't be using that. We're just going to use the actual just thank you sentiment. Like I said, from both of these die sets, we're going to use some of the flowers and some of the leaves and foliage from that. I went ahead and die cut all our flowers and stems and such from white cardstock, and I'll show you what I did to color them. So we're going to bring in some Distress Oxide in the following colors. I'm going to rattle them off real quick. We use Crackling Campfire, Dried Marigold, Dusty Concord, Fossilized Amber, and Rustic Wilderness. We're going to use our tools here for our blending brushes, our spatulas and such. For our card base is our Not Your Mama's cardstock. I pulled in from my own stash a orange that matches our pumpkin patch and a piece of heavyweight brown cardstock. So here are some of the leaves I cut using our dies. These I cut from leftover foil sheets. Basically we have in the shop some toner sheets that you can use with our new foils that were released not so long ago, just actually last month. And I had some pieces left over, so I used the dies and cut some of those. The rest of the leaves and flowers I cut from Not Your Mama's cardstock, and I colored those with our Distress inks. Now I die cut the words excuse me, thank you twice. One's from bronze or copper colored cardstock, a shimmer cardstock, and one from a foiled cardstock, and it's like an orangey. I end up using the orangey, as you can see in my card. So I'm going to clear everything off here and we'll get started. We're also going to be using our stick and stamp mat because we'll be stenciling. So now let's get started. I'm going to place the stick and stamp mat down, take the cover sheet off, place my brown cardstock onto it, place my stencil on top of that, and I'll let the stick and stamp mat hold my stencil in place. I'm going to use our Velveteen Glaze first in Pumpkin Patch because, like I said, I'm going to try to create a gradient design here. So I start with the darker orange on the bottom, and then I'll put the Peach Bellini, which dries like a real pale orange, on this brown cardstock. Normally it's like a nice peachy color, but with the cardstock being so dark, and it gets some of the pumpkin patch mixed in with it, it dries like a lighter orange. So you have that gradient of light to dark. So all I do is put some on there, like a good nice glob across the top, and then I use an old gift card and I just spread it. If you have one of those cool little spatulas, I believe we have some in the shop. You can use the big ones that use the scraper ones. It works just the same. I actually have one of those that I need to pick up. Alright, so now I'm going to release my panel, and all I did was curl my mat to release. And I set the one that I just created for you on screen to the side to dry for another project, and I had one already for us. Now to color our flowers and foliage, all I did was, like I said, use these blender brushes with some of the Distress Oxide ink and just put it on there, just blend it on. Really quick and simple. So you can die cut a bunch of these and then color them up, or you can die cut them from our toner sheets covered in all different color foils, just like I did here. Now I'm going to admit, I went kind of a little floral overboard. Next time, if I recreate this card, I'll try to use a little more restraint. Alright, so now I'm adhering the orange cardstock to our card base, and I have my stenciled panel ready to go. But I'm going to lay out all of my pieces here so I know I have everything. I like to keep them all in the same design or shape together so I know I can pick a shiny one and a more matte one, so I know I have plenty of contrast going through. Some of these flowers have little centers. Those are the ones that are still in a triangle dish. I don't want to lose my centers. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my stencil panel, and I'm using Barely Art Glue to adhere all my panels. And then I'm going to bring in the flowers and the centers. I brought those towards the bottom so I can adhere our centers to our flowers. So I'm going to adhere some of these flowers and foliage throughout the base here of the card. Just want it to look like there's a bunch of different flowers and leaves that are just gathering at the base of this tree. You know, that's what I had in my mind. And if I would have just done a few, it would have been great, but I just kept adding because, you know, sometimes you think, more is great. Not always. So I'm not sure how I feel about the true outcome of it. I love the flowers and the shimmer and shiny you get from those foil pieces with the contrast of the matte ones from the distress colored leaves and flowers and the beautiful stencil coming through. I just think I should have, you know, was a little less. And, you know, that's how it goes. So I sped this up quite a bit here because if I let this play at real time, you would be screaming like I do when I'm editing this. Glue it down, woman, glue it down, because I take forever to choose. Should I put this here? I don't know. Let me wait. Let me move that. And then, you know, almost 30 minutes later, I'm still fussing with a card that should have taken me all of 10 minutes. However, I finally got it done, and I edited it as quickly as possible so that you can see how easy it actually is, especially if you decide how many you want and just glue things down. Now there are a few that I put adhesive, foam adhesive on the back of these little flowers so they are raised up so I can keep tucking, and also to add nice dimension to our card. So I'm just tucking in a few more here, and here are my centers for those cards. See the ones on the bottom, I put the larger foam tab and then I just stick the center onto it. Try to make it as easy as possible. Now I add here some of our shimmery foiled ones as well. I wanted height and dimension of all the textures of the different flowers on our card. Now the leaves and berries and all the little things, those I glued it straight to our card. Now I choose which of the two sentiments I like the best. I go with the orange. I go back and forth and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go with the orange one. So I'm going to go ahead and use my tweezers to hold our sentiment while I put little tiny dots of Barely Art Glue on the back. I'm going to grab an acrylic block and place it on top. Being that this is a foiled, looks like craft cardstock that it's foiled. So I just want to make sure it stays down because it's so thin and delicate. I don't want my sentiment to rip. Alright, once that's all set, I'm going to bring in some sequins from my stash, and I have these in shades of green, orange, and a copper color to place throughout the mix of the flowers on the bottom, and 3 over here by the top next to my sentiment. Adding a few more of those gives just a little more dimension and shine to our card. Now, of course, like always, I mention that this is just a finishing touch. If you're not into all those little things, you don't have to add them. That doesn't make your card any less beautiful. I'm sure it's magnificent. I just like adding a little extra to my cards. You can add other things other than sequins if you're not a sequins lover. Okay, so again, here's our finished card, and I want to go over everything we use. We use Charlotte's Wreath for the foliage, the sentiment, and we use Judy's Wreath for the flowers and some of the foliage, Spring Sayings for our die cut our panel, our stencil called Wood. We use Velveteen, Glaze, and Peach, Bellini, and Pumpkin Patch, and a variety of Distress Oxide inks. I'll have them all listed for you in the description box below, as well as the foil I used to create some of our flowers and leaves today. I hope you found some inspiration, and if you create a card using any of our products, please share them with us on social media.